The part of you that wants to be liked is the part of you that will destroy you. Not overnight, not with a single dramatic failure, but slowly, quietly, in a way that looks, from the outside, exactly like success. Here is what nobody tells you about the life you're currently living. You wake up, you perform, you make people comfortable, you answer emails you don't care about, you laugh at jokes that aren't funny, you show up to conversations where you say nothing true, you finish the day, fall into bed, scroll for an hour, and feel nothing. And then in the brief silence between your head hitting the pillow and the exhaustion pulling you under, something flickers. A thought too quiet to hear, but too heavy to ignore. It whispers, "Is this all I am?" You push it away because there's no crisis. Nothing is technically wrong. Work is fine. Relationships are intact. By every measurable standard, your life is working, but you are disappearing inside it. And the more you try to be the version of yourself that everyone else finds acceptable, the less you actually exist. This is not burnout. This is not anxiety, though it wears their clothes. This is something deeper, something the psychologist Carl Jung spent his career mapping. He called it the confrontation with the self. And it is the moment your inner world stops cooperating with the life your outer world has been running. Most people will go their entire lives without understanding what is happening to them at this stage. They will spend decades adding more achievements to a foundation that was never theirs to build on. And they will wonder in their 40s, in their 50s, why they feel like strangers to themselves. But you are here, which means part of you already knows. The mask is slipping, and the question is not whether it will come off. The question is whether you will be the one to remove it, or whether it will be ripped from you when the structure finally collapses. Here is how it begins. You are not born with a mask. You are born wanting exactly what you want. You cry when you are hungry. You reach for what interests you. You do not calculate whether your excitement is appropriate. You do not filter your grief to make others comfortable. But very early, the world trains you otherwise. You learn that some parts of you are acceptable and some are not. Anger is dangerous. Enthusiasm is annoying. Sadness is a burden. Neediness is weakness. So you begin the work of division. You take the approved traits and put them on display. You take the forbidden ones and push them down, away from sight, away from awareness. This is not weakness. This is survival. Every child learns this arithmetic. But here is what nobody explains. The parts you push down do not disappear. They do not dissolve, they go underground. And underground, they do not go quiet. Jung called this underground the shadow. It is the archive of everything you were taught to reject. The dreams you shelved because they were impractical. The anger you swallowed because it was unsafe. The desire you buried because it was inconvenient. The version of you that you locked away before you were old enough to understand what you were sacrificing. And for years you manage. The mask, what Jung called the persona, does its job. You become reliable, agreeable, successful on paper. You build a life that looks correct. You collect the credentials, the relationships, the milestones that signal to the world that you have figured it out. But beneath the structure, the shadow is accumulating weight, and the persona is growing heavier. What once felt like a tool now feels like a cage. What once protected you now suffocates you. And this is where the real problem begins. Because the mask does not only hide you from the world, it hides you from yourself. When you wear it long enough, you forget it is a mask. You mistake the performance for the person. You look in the mirror and see not who you are, but who you learn to be. And somewhere beneath that surface, the version of you that was locked away begins to demand air. It does not ask politely. It does not send a memo. It speaks in disruption, unexplainable fatigue, dreams you cannot shake, a vague, restless boredom with things that used to excite you, a growing intolerance for conversations that go nowhere, the sudden irrational urge to burn down everything you spent years building. Jung was clear about this. The unconscious does not negotiate. When you ignore its signals, it escalates. What begins as restlessness becomes numbness. What begins as vague dissatisfaction becomes a crisis you cannot ignore. And this is the moment most people make a catastrophic mistake. They feel the collapse coming. They sense the structure weakening. And they panic. They double down on the mask. They chase a promotion. They start a new relationship. They throw more ambition at a problem that ambition did not create. They try to optimize their way out of an existential wound. But you cannot solve an identity crisis with productivity. You cannot fill the gap between who you are and who you are pretending to be with another achievement. The collapse is not asking you to rebuild faster. It is asking you to finally look at what you have been refusing to see. Here is what is actually happening. You have been living your life according to a blueprint you did not write. You absorbed it from your parents, from your culture, from the invisible architecture of expectations that surrounded you before you were old enough to question anything. Go to school, get the job, be stable, be agreeable. Don't make waves. Build a life that looks respectable. And somewhere in the middle of that sequence, you stopped asking what you actually wanted. Not because you were weak, because the pressure to conform was relentless. Because the cost of being yourself felt too high. Because you learned early that authenticity is punished and performance is rewarded. So you performed. And now you are exhausted. Not the kind of exhaustion that sleep can fix. The exhaustion of maintaining a fiction. The exhaustion of keeping the parts of yourself in a box while projecting an image that costs you more energy than you ever admitted. Jung wrote that the greatest and most important problems of life are fundamentally insoluble. They cannot be solved. They can only be outgrown. Outgrown means you stop trying to fix the mask. Outgrown means you stop asking how to be a better version of the person you never wanted to be. Outgrown means you let the structure fall. Not because you have given up, but because you finally understand that the structure was never yours. But letting it fall is terrifying. Because when the mask comes off, you do not immediately find a stable self underneath. You find a gap, a space where the old identity is gone and the new one has not yet arrived. And every instinct screams at you to fill that space, to define yourself, to grab another identity, another role, another label that tells the world who you are. Jung warned against this. He warned against rebuilding too fast. Because if you rush to fill the gap with another ready-made identity, you are just replaying the same pattern with different scenery. New mask, same hiding. The real work is different. It is slower. It is quieter. It is sitting in the gap long enough to let something genuine rise up from underneath. And what rises up is not a new persona. It is not a better performance. It is the parts of yourself you locked away years ago, the anger you were never allowed to express, the desire you were ashamed to admit, the direction you abandoned because it wasn't practical. The version of you that existed before you learned to calculate your worth in the eyes of others. Jung called this process individuation. It is not self-improvement. It is not becoming a better version of yourself. It is becoming yourself at all. And the journey is not clean. It is not linear. It involves looking at parts of you that are not flattering. It involves admitting the ways you have collaborated with your own diminishment. It involves letting go of the story you have been telling everyone about who you are. But here is what happens when you do. You stop leaking energy. Because most of your energy has not been going toward building your life. It has been going toward protecting the mask, managing impressions, calculating what to say, suppressing what you actually think, performing interest in conversations that bore you, smiling when you want to scream. All of that is energy, and it is energy that never returns to you. When the mask falls, the leakage stops. You stop spending your life force on maintaining a fiction, and the energy that was tied up in protection becomes available for building. But building what? Not a life that looks good on paper, a life that actually fits you. A life that aligns with what you genuinely want, not what you were told to want. A life where your internal world and your external world finally match. This is what Jung meant when he said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not a duty, not an achievement, a privilege. Because most people never get there. They die wearing a mask they forgot was a mask. They leave behind a biography that looks successful in a grave where a person never fully lived. You do not have to be one of them. But the cost of leaving the mask behind is real. You will lose people who only knew the performance. You will unsettle relationships built on your compliance. You will experience moments of profound loneliness when the old structures fall and the new ones are not yet built. And you will have to face the shadow. The shadow is not darkness in the sense of evil. It is darkness in the sense of unacknowledged. It is the parts of you that you have been running from your entire life. And when you stop running, you have to turn around and look. This is where most people turn back. They glance at the shadow, feel the discomfort, and run back to the mask. They prefer the cage they know to the uncertainty of freedom. But if you stay, something shifts. You stop projecting your rejected parts onto other people. You stop being triggered by the very things you refuse to own in yourself. You stop outsourcing your authority to figures who promise to tell you who you should be. And you begin to experience something you may never have felt before. Internal coherence. Not constant happiness. Not the absence of difficulty, but a felt sense of rightness and alignment. A quiet certainty that the life you are living is actually yours. Here is the truth that Jung understood and that our culture actively hides from you. The collapse you are experiencing is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that something in you has outgrown the container you built. The mask is cracking because the person underneath is too large to fit inside it anymore. And you have a choice. You can rush to patch the cracks. You can add more achievements, more validation, more performance. You can spend another decade maintaining a life that does not fit you, wondering why you feel emptier with every success. Or you can let it fall. You can let the mask come off. You can sit in the gap without rushing to define yourself. You can face the parts of you that you locked away and finally bring them home. And from that place, you can build something real. Not perfect, not approved, not optimized. Real. Jung did not promise that living authentically makes life easier. He promised it makes life meaningful. And meaning is what you have been starving for. Not success, not approval, not the temporary relief of being liked. Meaning is the feeling that your life is actually yours, that the energy you spend is building something you believe in, that when you lie down at night, there is no gap between who you presented to the world and who you actually are. That gap is the source of your exhaustion, and closing it is the only thing that will ever make it stop. So if you are lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of a life that looks fine but feels empty, here is what you need to understand. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are not behind. You are outgrowing. Something in you has grown beyond the structure you built, and the collapse you feel approaching is not the end of you. It is the beginning of something that has been waiting to be born for a very long time. The mask has done its job. It got you through. It kept you safe. But now it is keeping you small, and the only way out is through. You do not need to know exactly who you are yet. You only need to stop pretending to be who you are not. You do not need to have it all figured out. You only need to stop outsourcing the answers to people who never asked you what you wanted. You do not need to burn your life down, but you do need to stop rebuilding it on a foundation you did not choose. The mask is killing you, not with violence, with slow suffocation, with the gradual disappearance of your own desires, your own voice, your own direction. And you know it. That is why you are here. That is why you kept watching. Because somewhere underneath the performance, you are still alive, and you are ready to come home. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who you were told to be, not who it was convenient to be, not who kept the peace and made everyone comfortable, who you actually are. Let the mask fall, sit in the gap, face what you buried, and build from the ground up. Not the life that looks right, the life that is yours,